welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you on today.
Thanks for having me, Jen.
Absolute pleasure. Really excited to dig into your subject. But for my audience, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I started my career as a wedding photographer in Tasmania. And actually, I learned a lot of my skills from my father, who was also a wedding photographer. And so after a while, I branched out on my own and started my own business. In 2020, I moved to Melbourne and for my husband's work, and then obviously COVID hit. And
what a bad time to move to Melbourne.
I know. And I could no longer photograph weddings. So I had to start something new. So I started photographing products from my dining room table. And then slowly from there build up my stock photography membership. And I'm actually just about to launch another site of stock images too, which is really exciting.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Can we get an exclusive on that, or is that still too much in the pipe works?
Oh, I could tell you a little bit about that if you like. It's basically for women in business, and it's solely focused on finance. So Australian dollars, notes. So that's
wow.
Really
that's
exciting.
Great. That's great. So Brand Eliza Stock is the name of your business. So you do stock photos. So I guess for my, listener who's listening, what is a stock photo? Like, what would you classify as a stock photo?
It's a pre-made photo. It's specially curated, designed for you to use within your business.
That's about it. Yeah. So I know stock photos can be beautifully curated, and you can find them. Well, I guess a lot of businesses do just use stock photos. So I like to talk to my clients about having a really good mix of stock photos and personalized photos.
Yeah.
So, but for people who perhaps aren't using stock photos or are always using stock photos, is there a right or a wrong way to use a stock photo?
Ooh, interesting question. Well, I think I want to start by saying there are stock photos and then there's stock photos. So you've got
I like that. All right.
Well, you have your free stock photos. They're overused, overseen. If you go onto these websites and click on an image, it actually tells you how many times it's been downloaded, and sometimes it's in the hundreds of thousands.
It's interesting.
So if you imagine using that within your business, and then your potential clients scrolling through on their feed and they're seeing the image, they're not going to stop. It's not eye-catching. It's already been seen. They'll just keep scrolling. But if you use something a little bit more unique, then your images are going to be eye-catching. You want to definitely use images that are on brand. But definitely a mix of images. So you've got your real life images, your behind the scenes, images of yourself, a real big mix within your business.
Yeah. It's interesting that you talk about, how often a stock photo is used. And one of these days I will do some research on what photo it is, but I always remember during the Donald Trump elections that he used a photo of what you would call a nuclear family, so mum, dad and 2 children, and it was on this massive billboard, and basically I don't know what it was marketing, but something he's all for family or something like that. But it was so interesting that a journalist actually found that Russia had used the exact same one. Putin had used the exact same image for something very, very different. And I just thought, there it is right there, why we have to be really careful when we're using stock photos, because we don't know that someone else hasn't used that photo that has totally different values and morals to what we do. So that's why I guess it's like, there's a billion websites out there that you can steal photos of or get photos of, or you can just Google images. But I guess having a library such as what you'd have that is I guess you have more control over the images that, you're being using, and they're perhaps a little bit more unique, even though they're stock photos. Is that how you
Absolutely.
kind of think about your stock photos?
Yeah, absolutely. Because mine's a membership, it's kind of like there's like a brick wall around them. Not everyone can access them. They're just for the members. So yeah, it's not everyone downloading them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So what are the benefits of using stock photos? Why should we be introducing more stock photos into our everything is content world that we live in?
Yeah, so look, there's so many. I could be sit here all day, but I'm just gonna I'm just gonna name six. So look, the first one, you don't need to hire a photographer, you don't need to plan the photo shoot, you save tons of money on that. The second one is you're going to save yourself time. You imagine trying to set up your own photos. All you have to do is log into a site and download them. Number three, staying on brand. On my site particularly, you can search for images by color, emotions, and categories. Really easy to stay on brand. Number four, staying consistent. You always have a range of images with stock images. You never run out. So really easy to stay consistent within your brand. Number five, there is definitely a huge variety of images. So you won't run out of images. And then number six is, in my membership particularly, you have weekly images released. So always new content. Yes.
Yeah, I love the consistency and the staying on brand thing. I think that's so important for all of your marketing, not just social media, but I think, images can be used in a variety of places. Social media is actually where we use most of them, but certainly, there's other places in our marketing to use them. So a really interesting question that I wanted to run by you is, like, we could come and join your membership. We can use, photo stock photos. We can go to Unsplash and get these photos, but who actually owns the photos? Where's the copyright sit with stock images?
Yeah, look, a really interesting question. And I think it depends on each site, the licensing. They've all got their own different terms and conditions.
Yeah, okay.
So when you're downloading an image and using it within the business, you own the right to use it within your business. You can't share it or pass it on. If you're wanting to use images for clients, you definitely need a commercial license.
Yeah.
And I mean, this goes for both commercial and personal. You can't resell these images. You don't own them. You just have the right to use them, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, if we take a membership such as yours, for instance, can you use the images over and over again in your own content? But if you were working for somebody else, you couldn't use it in their content. Is that kind of where it sits?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And so if you were a virtual assistant and you wanted to use the images for your clients, your client would need to sign up too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because it's very, very murky, the whole copyright thing. I used to, I dabbled a little bit in copyright law back when I was working in law, and it's such a whirlpool. And now it's bigger, because back when I was doing it, we were kind of very sheltered. We weren't really a global society, but now we are. And yeah, I think it's so very hard to contain your images or having them stolen, or things like that. So it's a really interesting question to sort of try and get your head around as to who owns that particular image, and especially for commercial purposes. So yeah, thank you for kind of explaining that to us. That's great. What are the ethics around using stock photos, do you think?
Oh, look, I mean, if you're going to be using stock photos from the free sites, I would definitely recommend crediting that photographer. They're not getting paid for that particular image. And I just think it's morally the right thing to do. I'm actually really lucky with my members that I don't require to be credited, but I quite often open up my social media and I have all these tags of all these beautiful posts, and I get to see how they use the images, which is really lovely. So I feel really lucky.
Yeah. And, I suppose from a marketing point of view, I'm always talking to my clients about UGC, user generated content. Like, if you can get your people to generate content for you, then that's less content you have to generate for yourself. So you're
Absolutely.
really lucky. Like, that's a lot of content that you could share on your stories or repurpose and sort of give them a shout out back that they're giving you a shout out. So I
Yeah,
love that.
absolutely.
The world needs more UGC, more user generated content in my mind. But yeah, and I suppose the ethics, like you say, tagging them, or basically, crediting them for the image, I think is really important. Yeah, look, hands up, I don't do it often enough, I must admit. So maybe after this conversation, I'll have to get better with that. Thank
That's
you.
great.
So what do you find that your clients, or even, outside of that, what do you find people are using stock photos for the most?
Honestly, everywhere. So you've got your socials, your blogs, your websites, landing pages, PDFs, lead magnets. You can download them and drop them into Canva templates, create reel covers in reels, stories, everywhere. Anywhere you
Yeah.
need an image. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So was your inspiration for doing this simply because you couldn't do wedding photography, or did you kind of, like, you could have done a lot of other things as a photographer? So why did you choose to do a stock image membership?
Oh, look, there were so many reasons. I had quite a few people actually suggested it to me, and I was a bit hesitant at first.
Yeah.
But it's felt like it was the right time for me. Suiting my family, it means I can stay at home on the weekends. I can work around my children and pick
Of
up.
course. Yeah.
Weddings was hard because you were gone the whole day and night, and trying to find a babysitter on the weekend is really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So how much time do you spend taking photos each week? If you're putting out new photos, how much time are you spending, like, creating these beautiful stock images?
Yeah, great question. I don't really know, to be honest. I should record it one week. Some days I don't photograph at all, and
Yeah.
then some days I just photograph the whole day. Sometimes we go on a family road trip, and I take my camera and stop
Mm.
if I see something that catches my eye. So
Yeah.
I normally take my camera with me everywhere I go, but yeah, usually photograph a lot during the week.
Yeah, right. So that brings up another really great question that I had for you was, how do you get inspired? Like, how do you come up with the ideas for the stock images? Like, are your clients telling you, it'd be really good to have a series of this, or are you just being inspired by, socials, or, where you're driving on the weekend with the family? Like, where's the inspiration come from?
Yeah, look, to be honest, everywhere. So I do
Yeah.
actually ask my members what they would like within the membership, and I do take kind of like requests.
Mhm.
But then I do look at socials a lot. I'm always online, and sometimes some of my collections are built from, as you said, going on a road trip. I see an image, and I'm like, this would suit this, and then this, and I'll just keep building it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got to ask you very selfishly, because it's my podcast and I get to ask whatever question I want. How many Tiffany blue type images do you have in your membership?
Oh, okay. I actually released that type of image collection yesterday. So
Oh,
some office space images in that color. They are gorgeous. You have to go have a look.
wow. I might have to have a little sneak look at those. Yeah. Because that's what you say. Like, you were talking earlier, you need them to be on brand. So I'm always looking for images that are on brand for my business. And I'm sure that the listener is thinking the same. So it's like, okay, so we all need stock images, I think,
Yes.
in our socials, especially. Like, if we are creating content, more and more content all the time, there comes a time where it's kind of like, okay, I need need a stock image. I can't just, fill it with a quote, or I can't just fill it with a picture of my face. Again, not that I'm against that, of course, very much into the human to human marketing, but sometimes you just do need stock photos. And like you say, they're really good for, lead magnets and, brochures, or, your website and things like that as well. And I must admit, when I was building my website, we found it hard to find a good set of stock images that we were happy with. Yeah. And, to go and pay a photographer, like, it's not even paying the photographer to do it. I wouldn't know what to ask them for. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
what images do you want? I don't know. Images for my website. Like, I have to be inspired by the image to go, that's the right image that I'm looking for. So reverse engineering is kind of like my superpower, and the thing that upsets me the most, I think. So yeah, super interesting, this whole concept of using more and more stock photos. I think stock photos kind of got bit of a bad name there for a while.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, look, I agree. And something I pride myself on is trying to do images in all the different colours. So, you find colours like pinks and whites and beiges very popular, but there's colours like yellow and the Tiffany blue that you're mentioning. They're not very popular. You don't get many images in that. So I feel like that's my niche, like filling the gap with those images.
Yeah, right. And orange. I know I've got a client who's, very much into orange and finds it hard to find orange images. Sarah, this is such a great chat. I think, thinking differently about stock images and where they sit in your business and what they can actually do to make your life a little bit easier, a bit simpler, hence the name of the podcast, is a really interesting concept. So I guess if my listener is like, I need to get in contact with Sarah or check out her membership or her images, where's the best place for them to get in contact with you?
Sure. So I'm most active on Instagram, which is Brand Eliza Stock, or my website is www.brandelizastock.com. And if you're interested in having a little sample of my images, I do have 20 free images on my website. So yeah, you're welcome to have a look and check them out.
Yeah, beautiful. Is that like a downloadable, like sign up to your email list and get them? Yeah, beautiful. And I have to ask, so your name's Sarah, your business is Eliza. Where's Eliza come from?
I'm glad you asked this question. So Eliza is my middle name, but it's also the middle name of my daughters. And my two daughters help me within my business. So they model for me, they actually photograph, and some of the images are inside their membership. And I have to mention that my youngest daughter, she's so gorgeous. She often sends me emails with links to Canva templates, which she's designed during school for my business. So she's really wanting to be actively involved, and I love that part of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh my goodness, sending emails while you're at school, that's a bit naughty, but amazing that she's so creative.
She told me she'd finished all her work and she was allowed. So it was free time, but
yeah, that likely story. Sarah, thank you so much for making time and coming on the podcast and, opening our eyes a little bit more to how stock photos can make our business life a little bit simpler. Really appreciate you coming along. And of course, I will have the links to your socials and to your website in the show notes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Jen. That's a real pleasure.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.